So good morning from our remote lab. You're remote, I'm in the lab. And if we were playing Where's Waldo, you probably have guessed by now. I am standing at your desks. So today my plan is to create a lab that you can watch online, and I am going to run the test and you're going to record the results and come up with the interpretation. So hopefully I can do this in little short segments and upload it tomorrow, and you can watch it without having to do all the lag periods. So this lab is an RH lab, so we're going to be testing samples. So I have taken 6 blood samples, and I have gone ahead and washed the cells and created a 3 to 5% suspension of red blood cells. So I actually have 7 samples. I know your worksheet has 4, but I would appreciate it if you would do this for all 7 results. So we're going to do RH, and we're going to see if they're RH positive or RH negative. If they're RH negative, then we're going to take it out to see if they're a weak D. You talked about that yesterday with Brittany. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my tubes, and then we'll get back together. Just give me 1 second. Okay, our next segment. So I've labeled my tubes. I have a 1, the number of my sample, and this one is D for the anti-D reagent that I'm going to add. And then the 2 behind it is the control, and it has a 1, the number of my sample, and it says control. And using an RH negative control for that. So what we want to have is a sample that has everything in it that could possibly be in this reagent except the antibody to big D. Therefore, if my reaction, the agglutination, is happening by something other than an antigen-antibody reaction to the D, I would see it here. So that's what I want to make sure of. If you remember Brittany's lecture, that she talked about that this RH system is very strong and antigenic, and so we want to make sure that what we're reacting with is actually the D antigen. Okay, so I'm going to put 1 drop of this in each of these tubes, and then a control that you always run with this D when we're checking for our RH. I don't really know how many little pieces of video there's going to be for this, but you can see that I've mixed my cells well. I've added my reagents to each tube, 1 drop of each, and now I'm going to place 1 drop of the... Here's the video of tube 2. On the bottom is the patient, and on the top is the patient control. Okay? So write down your results. This is sample 2. The bottom tube is the patient with the anti-D, and the top tube is the patient with the RH control. Okay. That worked. Sample 3, this is patient 3. The bottom tube is your patient with D added, and the top is your patient with the RH control. Write down your results. Oh, make sure you had time to see it. This is sample 3. Next is sample 4. The bottom is your patient with anti-D, and the top is your patient with the RH control. Number 5, the bottom tube is your patient with anti-D, and the top tube is your patient with the RH control, meaning that it has everything in the liquid except anti-D. Patient 6,
funny, isn't it? Okay, what do you think about the bottom tube? Bottom tube is your patient. And the top tube is your control for that same patient. Put your results down. I have to spin number 7. Okay, this is your sample number 7. The bottom tube is your patient with the RH, and the top tube is your control. Okay. And I added one more sample so that we could see if we could tell the positives from the negatives. The bottom tube is your patient with anti-D, and the top one is your RH control.